Bickering is becoming all too common, he remarked to no one in particular. In the absence of resolution, it will be the outlying systems that will suffer most. Dooku nodded sagely. The hyperwave repeater should have been a Republic undertaking. The Senate erred in allowing the holonet to be privatized. Qui-Gon Jinn's ears pricked up, and he glanced at Plagueis. Discontent in the outer systems is in keeping with the aims of Damask Holdings, is it not, Magister? On the contrary, Plagueis replied in a composed voice. We advocate for the interests of neglected worlds when and wherever we can. The tall Jedi wasn't persuaded to back off. By supporting the likes of the Trade Federation and other cartels. The Trade Federation has brought progress to many a backward world, Master Jinn, through exploitation that leads ultimately to ruin. Plagueis spread his hands. Progress often comes at a cost. On occasion, a world will go through growth pangs as a result, but to call the end result ruination is overstating the case. He studied Qui-Gon. Surely the Jedi have had to ignore consequences of the same magnitude in enforcing the laws of the Republic. Sifo-Dyas' dark brows formed a V. A short, muscular man, he had a broad nose, prominent cheekbones, and lustrous black hair cinched in a high topknot. His hands were large and calloused, as if from physical labor. Concern shone in his brown eyes. It is a misconception that we serve only the Republic, Magister. Our order serves the greater good. As the order defines it, Plagueis said, only to wave the remark away. But then you have the advantage of being able to act in concert with the Force, where the rest of us are left to grope in the dark for what is just and right. Damask Holdings tries, nonetheless, to take the long view. As do the Jedi, Qui-Gon said. But in several instances where we have had to resolve conflicts, it is your name that has surfaced. Plagueis shrugged. The wealthy are held to higher standards than the poor. Dooku thought about it. I blame the Senate for encouraging the galaxy to turn on credit. Plagueis glanced from Dooku to Qui-Gon. I'm willing to concede Master Jinn's point that the Munes have cornered the market on finance, if he is willing to concede that the Jedi have cornered the market on ethics. Qui-Gon granted Plagueis a dignified bow. And so we find ourselves on different sides, Magister. Not necessarily. Perhaps we are after the same thing. Different paths to the same destination. It's a clever rationalization, but I refuse to accept it. Qui-Gon placed his hands in the opposite sleeves of his robe. If you'll excuse me. Dooku smiled lightly as the tall Jedi sauntered off. My former apprentice does not mince words. Frank talk is a rarity these days, Plagueis said. The Senate could learn from beings like Qui-Gon Jinn. Dooku made a glum face. The Senate listens only to itself, endlessly and without purpose. If it and Supreme Chancellor Darius are going to perpetuate a climate where injustice can advance, then it will. Sifo-Dyas grew uneasy. The Rotunda is an arena even we don't enter, he said in a level voice, except as spectators. Plagueis could not restrain a smile. But you have, from time to time, been known to lobby. He continued before Sifo-Dyas or Dooku could answer. It can be a circus. One thing is certain, however. The core is not holding. New leadership is needed. Darius will undoubtedly be elected to another term, Dooku said. Plagueis pretended concern. Is there no one who can defeat him, Master Dooku? Frix, possibly. Kalpana, eventually. At present, he isn't strong enough to overcome the special interest lobbies. Sifo-Dyas' unease increased. We are sworn not to take an active role in any case. Kalpana would certainly set a different tone, Plagueis said, but perhaps an equally risky one. His stance against piratism, smuggling, even slavery is well known. Unfortunately, many of the outer systems survive only because of such practices.
Then those worlds will have to find alternative means, Sifo-Dyas said.
Plagueis turned to him. Without assistance from the Republic? It begins to sound to me as if the Jedi will have their work cut out for them.
Sifo-Dyas compressed his lips. The Judicials and the Jedi will maintain peace.
There's certainty in your voice, Plagueis said. But let me pose a question. If discontent spreads, and intersystem conflict breaks out, if member worlds threaten secession, as Serenno threatened in times past, would your loyalties not be divided?
The Republic will be preserved.
Plagueis grinned. Again, that comforting confidence. But suppose the Republic's goals were not in keeping with the greater good. Suppose conflict grew to become actual schism. The two Jedi traded looks. In the absence of armies, there can be no war, Dooku said. Are the Jedi not an army? Or at least capable of becoming one should the need arise?
We were an army at one time, but our enemies were vanquished, Sifo-Dyas said with deliberate vagueness. No matter the extent of the conflict, we would attempt to forge a peace, and without becoming the ruling body you seem to fear. Plagueis didn't reply immediately. Sifo-Dyas was proving to be even more interesting than Dooku, though in a different way. Only a misguided sense of loyalty to the Jedi Order kept him from giving voice to the real extent of his apprehensions.
And yet you say, forge a peace. That has the ring of semantics to it, Master Sifo-Dyas. But for the sake of argument, what if the disaffected systems raised an army? Wouldn't the Jedi be obligated to serve and protect the Republic?
Sifo-Dyas forced an exhale. From where would these hypothetical armies arise? The outlying systems lack the resources.
Realizing his error, he trailed off.
Plagueis waited a moment, his satisfaction concealed.
I didn't mean to suggest that the Republic is purposely depriving the outlying systems of the right to self-determination. I'm merely speculating because I do see a growing threat. Dooku regarded him. You are not alone in seeing it, Magister. Then one final question, if I may. If attacked, would you counterattack? The Republic has pledged to remain demilitarized, Dooku said. It would militarize only in the instance of a perceived threat.
Once more, you've reframed your initial question, Magister Damask, Sifo-Dyas interrupted, a new fire in his eyes. You're hypothesizing an attack on the Jedi Order itself.
I suppose I am, Plagueis said self-deprecatingly. I suppose I was thinking of the recent assassination of Senator Vidar Kim. A Jedi was involved, if I'm not mistaken.
That matter is being looked into, Sifo-Dyas said in a controlled voice. There's no evidence to suggest that the Jedi in question was targeted. The silence that followed was broken by the voice of Jocasta Nu, who was summoning the Jedi to the far side of the conference room. Plagueis studied Sifo-Dyas peripherally. While Nu and the others conferred, he thought back to the conversation he'd had with Sidious on Sojourn. We will have to exploit their self-righteousness and blind obedience to the Republic, Sidious had said at one point. The Jedi must be made to appear the enemies of peace and justice, rather than the guardians. Mulling it over anew, Plagueis began to wonder whether he had taken the wrong approach on Kamino. Perhaps, he thought, it would be better to have the Kaminoans create an army capable of fighting alongside the Jedi, rather than against them.